Get down.
Thank you for tuning in to the hottest podcast on these internet streets, giving you nothing but the facts about STEM education, inspiration, and motivation for our future leaders of tomorrow. We believe in creating future scientists one test tube at a time. The More Than Just Science show is going in a different direction this quarter, as we will be encouraging you weekly on the ideas you can use at your home if you are a parent, at school if you are a student, and in the classroom if you are an educator. Students, come get this knowledge. Teachers, come take some notes. Parents, come educate your kids. And listeners, stay tuned, because we're bringing you facts from yours truly, the two-time award-winning Professor Tabby, aka TK the Chemist Ship. Your favorite professor of chemistry of the More Than Just Science show. Welcome to our show on this beautiful day. You could be anywhere else, but you chose to join us, and for that I want to say thank you. This is the More Than Just Science show, and I'm your host, Professor TK the Chemist. If you want to get in touch with me about anything you've heard today or on my past shows, you know how to reach me. Hit me up on Instagram at TK the Chemist, Twitter at TK the Chemist01, my website, Facebook, Periscope. Hey, I'm everywhere, okay? All that information will be located at the end of this show in the very bottom of my links, all right? Now, and guess what? We also have an online store where we sell science treats and kits for kids of all ages. We have our latest collection of science kits in our store, so don't forget to support the Mtjss Science Center at www.mtjss4kids.com. And we also have our online STEM Academy, the Mtjss STEM Academy. And you know what? We want y'all to go ahead and enroll in our course, because we have so much to offer our youth for today, tomorrow, the future. So be a part of our STEM Academy. We do have a discount where you will receive 17% off, because the Mtjss Science Center is celebrating 17 years in business. So go ahead and connect with us, and the link for that online STEM Academy will be at the very end of our show. I would be remiss if I did not pay homage to an ancestor now. The Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. She passed away and joined our other ancestors this week. She died of pancreatic cancer at the age of 76. And while we may mourn Miss Franklin's death, we can still honor her and keep her memory alive by playing her songs, watching her movies, and speaking about her. There are too many hits for me to say which one of her songs is my all-time favorite, but I can tell you, I love, of course, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. No, I can't sing, but I love that song. I also love A Rose is Still a Rose. She came out with that song in the early 2000s. And that song goes out to a lot of women who are going through something. And you can listen to that song to get the courage to know that you are still a rose, no matter what. I like Chain of Fools and Rock Steady. I love her old songs from back in the day. Miss Aretha Franklin could put it down, okay? The woman who I think comes close to her in today's time will be Fantasia, in terms of her voice and range of her tones and notes. So, Miss Franklin, I want you to rock steady, all right? But of course, before I go any further, you know, the STEM hat is always on. Science, technology, engineering, and math hat. I wanted to find out if Miss Franklin had any scientific connections, and I found one. There's an asteroid named after her. Yes, the Queen of Soul's legacy can be found in the cosmos, orbiting beyond Mars. So you're probably wondering, well, how did that happen? Well, it happened in 2001. But before I give you the history about that, let me tell you how asteroids are actually named. Well, first off, the first asteroid to be discovered was around the early 1800s, and they were named for figures in Roman and Greek mythology. As more were found, astronomers began naming the space rocks after themselves, and then after famous individuals in culture, science, art, music, and literature. And of course, in those times, all of these fields were dominated by men, so women working and contributing to the same arenas were often overlooked. Okay. An astronomer from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory named Mtjss. She started naming asteroids after women. And here's what she says, quote, "My postdoctoral fellow, Dr. Carrie Nugent, brought to my attention the fact that although many asteroids have been named, very few have been named to honor the contributions of women, and particularly women of color," end quote. She wrote that in a blog post in 2015. In addition to Aretha Franklin having an asteroid named after her, there's also asteroids named after civil rights activist Rosa Parks, the abolitionist Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman, and the Nobel Peace Prize winning activist Malala Yousafzai. Even though 249516 Aretha was first detected in 2001, it was not formally designated as an asteroid until February 2010. Okay, we're talking 9 years later. But in order to determine if a space rock is indeed an asteroid, astronomers must observe it dozens of times to figure out its orbit and other properties. So after they discovered, the asteroid, they of course chose that name, and the names are then judged and chosen by a 15-person committee at the International Astronomical Union. So 249516 Aretha measures 2 to 3 kilometers or less than 2 miles across. It orbits between Mars and Jupiter, one of hundreds of thousands of known asteroids that reside between the two planets. It takes about 5.5 years to make one trip around the sun. So, y'all better stand up and pay her some respect. And that she too is an honorary member of the STEM community. And more importantly, she's got an asteroid named after her that will live on forever. Remember, we're all made of atoms. We cannot be destroyed, okay? So her legacy and history will live on for eternity. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, take F-T-C-B. Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me, little rich slay. Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me. Woo! Hey, little bit, little rich slay. Just a little bit. I get tired. A little bit, keep on trying. Just a little bit. You're running out. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the content of our program today with our segment called What's the Word in STEM this week? You must learn. This week, we discovered that heavy metals at levels called, quote, troublesome are lurking in foods commonly eaten by babies and toddlers, according to a new Consumer Reports investigation. You're probably wondering, what the heck is a heavy metal? Well, I got to put on my professor hat, because as we discuss this chapter in a few weeks with my chemistry students, they will be able to discover that these heavy metals appear either in the middle or on the staircase near the metalloids of a periodic table. In very small amounts, many of these heavy metals are necessary, of course, to support life, but if you have too many of these occurring in large amounts within your body, they become toxic. Okay? They may build up biological systems and become a significant health hazard. So you're probably wondering, well, what's a toxic heavy metal? It's basically any relative dense metal or metalloid that is noted for its potency toxicity, especially in an environmental context. So we think it's about metals like cadmium, mercury, lead, and arsenic. all of which appear in the World Health Organization's list of 10 chemicals of major public concern. Other examples include manganese, chromium, cobalt, nickel, copper, zinc, selenium, silver, antimony, and thallium. Now, heavy metals are found naturally in the earth, and they become concentrated as a result of humans' caused activities and can either enter by plants, animals, and human tissues via inhalation, diet, and manual handling. Now, of course, when we think about these elements, you're probably wondering, well, how the heck do they get in food made for children? Okay? Foods like cereals and snacks. So what they did was they took 50 packaged foods. They took them to a laboratory and they looked at medical research on what levels of the heavy metals could cause health issues. Okay? Now, this issue is particularly important for baby food because there are high levels of these metals in the food. Of course, they have to have threshold levels, and here's the problem. About 2/3 or 68% of the tested foods were very high with these heavy metals. Okay? Over the lifetime of their development with babies, particularly from birth to age 4, you will have an increased risk of cancer, for example. And also, children can develop autism. You know, that's one of the biggest things going on right now in the fertility community in terms of having healthy babies. After this analysis, the Consumer Report scientists concluded that 15 of the foods would pose potential health risk if a child ate 1 serving or less every day. Snacks and products with rice or sweet potatoes were more likely than other foods to have high levels of the heavy metals. White rice had lower levels than brown. Here are the 15 foods that a consumer, well, I'm not going to read all of them, but I will give you some of them. Earth's Best Organic Chicken and Brown Rice, Gerber Chicken and Rice, Gerber Little Meals, White Turkey Stew and Rice and Vegetables, Plum Organics, Just Sweet Potato Baby Food, Beech Nut Classics Sweet Potato. So my advice to y'all would be to make your own food, okay? We don't want you all to be alarmed and frightened behind these stories, but what we do want to say is make your own food. What's wrong with you taking your own sweet potatoes that you've grown in your garden, or your own sweet potatoes that you've gotten from the grocery store that are organic, and blended them? You don't have to have the jarred food to ensure that your baby is eating so-called baby food. Now, I do know some people say giving your child like table food at an early age is a bad thing too. But again, guys, think about it. You can make your own food. You don't have to go to the grocery store every week to buy baby food when you have food in your pantry. But I'm not saying giving them all this heavy stuff. You have to ground it up, of course. You have to make it sort of like a pudding consistency. Okay? In other news, vaping. This is something that a lot of young people are getting into, and I am really appalled by this because they're saying, well, it's better than smoking cigarettes. But guess what? Vaping could damage important immune cells in the lungs and trigger inflammation, according to a study that I just read. Now, inside our lungs, we have what's called protective cells known as alveolar macrophages, which fight and eat up debris such as bacteria, dust particles, and allergens, okay? The researchers are warning that their findings add to concerns among health experts that vaping is perhaps not only not healthy, okay, but there are higher risk, long-term health risk because of vaping. Rates of vaping have spiked in the past decade, and the U.S. vapor market is the biggest in the world. Get this, y'all. The retail sales are expected to hit 5.5 billion with a B this year. To investigate what happens when e-cigarette oil evaporates and enters the lungs, the researchers created vaping and collected the resulting condensation. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about what's happening, I'm going to provide you with the link for this. There are kids who are showing you on YouTube how to make vapes, okay, with or without nicotine. They're actually ordering this stuff offline, and they're making this stuff in their homes as if they're in a real chemistry lab. Okay? So we got to be mindful of what these kids are doing. I mean, they're actually ordering this stuff. As long as they have a credit card, they can make their own vapes. Now, here's the problem also, that while e-cigarettes appear to be safer than traditional cigarettes, they may still raise the risk of long-term effects. Okay? If you vape for like 20 to 30 years, they can still cause issues like COPD. Okay? You've heard about that. So what I'm going to do is take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to stem out to some other headline stories, okay? So, before you go anywhere, go ahead and pause. Press pause. Go ahead and let this play out, because we're going to go ahead and play some RESPECT by Aretha Franklin while you go get your notebooks and take some notes. Welcome back to the More Than Just Science Show. Today's topic deals with the chemical concoctions behind the headlines. Now I want to go behind the headlines and give you all the science behind some of these stories. I only got a few, okay? So, a few weeks ago, there was an attack on a grandmother and her granddaughter in an Asian nail salon over inferior service, according to the grandmother. She had paid for her mani and pedicure for both herself and her granddaughter. But when it came down to her eyebrows, she said, look, they're not on fleek. I don't like them. Okay? Now, those were not her exact words, okay? But she did say she didn't like them. Okay? Next thing you know, an argument ensued, and the attack happened where one of the Asian women took a broom handle and started beating the grandmother. Then you had the male employee who held the granddaughter back so she couldn't come to her defense. And of course, not only was the beating not enough with the broomstick handle, some other chick had the audacity to take acetone and throw it on them. Now you're probably wondering, is acetone bad? Can you die from acetone? What happens if you are doused with acetone? Well, let me give you the science behind that. Now, and I was just appalled, looking at the story, reading the story, and trying to understand, why would you throw acetone on anybody? You've heard of people throwing acid on, people to disfigure them and do all kinds of chemical burn things to destroy a person's image. But when you throw acetone, I feel like that's a threat. That should be a felony, okay? Because you're wanting to cause harm by throwing a chemical. So let's go behind the science of these headlines. As a chemistry professor, we discuss these types of hazards in a lab environment all the time. From the first day of the semester, we tell our students, be sure to wear closed-toe shoes. Pull your hair back with the ponytail holder. No food or drinks in the lab. You shouldn't wear shorts either, because if you have a chemical splash, guess what? Your legs could be damaged. You got to wear safety goggles. These are just a few of the lab safety rules that we talk about. But we know when you're at home, okay, chilling on a Friday or a Saturday night, listening to some Jill Scott or Erykah Badu while removing your old nail polish, you decide to burn some candles or some incense, and guess what? You just set yourself up for a potential health hazard to cause a fire. Y'all probably don't realize, but when you're removing nail polish with acetone, it has vapors that you can't see. And these vapors can actually cause a fire to take off real quick, okay? The safety hazards of acetone include irritation to the eyes, the nose, the throat, the lungs, and you don't oftentimes know it until you start coughing. Now, if acetone is ingested, it can cause irritation to the stomach, and consequently, you will begin to vomit. Now, acetone is not only used in nail salons or in your household to remove nail polish, but it's also used as a degreaser. It's used for thinning fiberglass resin. It helps to remove adhesives and vinyl resins. Now, while it is widely used in different areas, guess what? It is made in our bodies. Yes, it's made in our bodies. A lot of people don't know that. And people who often have diabetes have to be very careful because of this same very reason. Because we do make acetone in our bodies, but not the way that you think, okay? Like, we can't create this acetone and then go use it on our nails, okay, to remove nail polish, okay? But it is made in the human body, and let me tell you how. Let me give you the little science behind it. Well, here is the science behind how it's made. First off, acetone can be made naturally in the body in small amounts by the process of decarboxylation of ketone bodies. Synthetic acetone is made from propylene, okay? And when you are in ketosis, and you've probably heard of so many people on this ketone diet, which there are some pros and cons behind that. But anyway, when you are in ketosis, this can result from diabetes. Or if you are on a high protein diet like the Atkins diet. And I just told somebody that the keto diet, is just like the Atkins diet, where you eat all this meat. But people are putting butter in their coffee and doing all these things. But when you are taking a diet like this, it is a sign that you are burning fat. However, the Atkins diet has been shown to be an inadvisable, and does not really induce ketosis. In fact, any weight loss is more so the simple fact that protein is more filling than carbs, sugars, and fats, okay? Okay, here's the other thing too. Your body makes small amounts of acetone. You can be exposed to a small amount of acetone by breathing air, drinking water, and eating food with acetone. You can also be exposed by contact with household chemicals like we talked about before. So you're probably wondering, well, is it harmful? Remember, your body normally contains some acetone because it's made during the breakdown of fat. Your body will make more acetone from body fat if you are on a low-fat diet. In addition to the acetone that your body makes from normal processes, acetone can enter your body, as I mentioned to you before, by the things such as drinking water or food that contains acetone, or if you touch liquid acetone or soil that contains acetone. The bloodstream absorbs acetone quickly and completely from the lungs and stomach. The bloodstream can also absorb acetone from the skin, but less rapidly than from the lungs and stomach. And as you know, blood carries acetone to all body organs, but it does not stay there for very long. You know why? Because your liver breaks down acetone to chemicals that are not harmful. The body uses these chemicals to make glucose, sugar, and fats that make energy for normal body functions. So the breakdown of sugar for energy makes carbon dioxide that leaves your body in the air you breathe out. These are normal processes in the body. So not all the acetone that enters your body from outside sources is broken down. Okay? So when that lady threw the acetone on the sister in Brooklyn, she was throwing some potent stuff, okay? She was throwing the potent version of acetone, not the stuff that we make in our bodies. So the potential negative health effects are, of course, as I mentioned to you before, skin and eye and lung irritation, and it can result in dry, cracked skin and possible damage to the nervous system, okay? It can also cause chemical burns. So now, I'm going to wait to see what happens with this nail salon because, as you know, I smell a lawsuit around the corner, okay? Now, the other story that I recently read about was this new fad that's going around restaurants called creating activated charcoal food. Things like activated ice cream, okay, activated charcoal burgers, activated charcoal pancakes. Now, the FDA had to crack down on restaurants in New York and told them to stop selling this activated charcoal items because of the potential hazards to the body. There are some benefits to taking activated charcoal, but not all of this is done by overdoing it. Okay? Now, you normally associate activated charcoal when somebody has been perhaps taking a drug, they have like a drug overdose, or they're poisoned. So you take activated charcoal because it's going to actually bind to those toxins in your body, and it helps to get rid of the unwanted substances. Charcoal is made from coal, wood, and other substances, but it becomes activated when high temperatures combine with a gas or activating agent to expand its surface area. But it's not useful in some cases, including if you've been poisoned from like alcohol or cyanide or lithium or iron tablets. So it's not used to treat those types of poisons, but when in doubt, call your local poison control immediately. Now, some of the side effects that you can actually experience when you take too much of activated charcoal would be something like constipation or black stools. More serious but rare side effects include slowing or blockage of the intestinal tract, regurgitation into the lungs, and also dehydration. So Professor TK, the chemist's verdict on this would be a 4 out of 5 in terms of the health benefits on a daily basis. But you must remember, if you're taking vitamins or medications or other supplements, you should take a break because your body will become used to it and could potentially lose its potency value. And also keep in mind that if you're taking activated charcoal with medication, it could actually bind to your meds and then not give you the effect that you were going for. So if you're taking high blood pressure medications or high cholesterol medications or something of that sort, taking activated charcoal with it is going to actually lose its potency value. Another story I heard. Can making slime cause a chemical burn? Well, if you ask the kids over in England, they did. Okay, they actually got a chemical burn from this. First of all, you got kids who are experimenting with glue, borax, food coloring, and water. It could potentially become hazardous. But this English schoolgirl suffered chemical burns on her hands. And I'm not laughing at what happened. I'm just laughing because these kids are doing the most without adult supervision. Borax comes from boron, the element boron. It's atomic number 5 on your periodic table. Go look it up. It's found naturally in the earth, but when you are using it, for what these kids are using it for, to make slime, it could potentially cause chemical burns because it's just like any other, household laundry detergent. There are chemicals other than just boron in it. So that was some footage that was shared on YouTube where this particular girl was using glue, some air wick, air freshener, some shaving cream, and glitter. And next thing you know, she used all this stuff without gloves. Now, when you start mixing different chemicals, you want to protect yourself, particularly young kids anyway, okay? And also, adults should be around to supervise this. Also, if you use contact lens solution, because that's another issue, it also contains borax. So you want to be very, very, very careful when you're making slime. And by the way, they've banned it in a lot of the schools that I go to because kids are putting slime in the toilets and in the sink, and it's causing the plumbing bill to rise. Kids. And the last story that I saw involved over 100 people at a park in Connecticut. Okay? It was actually in New Haven, Connecticut. Now, I saw this while I was running on the treadmill. I had to pause so I could hear this story because there were over 100 people, 114 to be exact, who were given a dose of synthetic marijuana. Okay? So we actually caught the person that did it. This person was going around giving and selling synthetic marijuana, but it was laced with fentanyl. And as a result, You had these people who were getting sick. They were hallucinating. They were coughing up blood, had blood in their urine, had bloody nose and bleeding gums. And while the fireman was on the scene giving his perspective, he got another call live on air. Okay? So they did catch the joker that did this, and he has had trouble before. They found 32 bags of K2 or spice in this person's home. He was charged in connection with another account back in February. So you're probably wondering, what is K2 synthetic weed? Well, let me give you a brief perspective of this. Back in May, there were 25 people who were hospitalized in Brooklyn, New York, because they were having negative reactions to this drug. It's basically a mind-altering chemical called cannabinoids. And since they were designed to be similar to the chemicals found in marijuana plants, their actual impact on the brain and body are much more powerful and can include side effects similar to those, or we're actually a little bit different from those of marijuana. They're synthetic. So in other words, they're made up in a lab. They don't start like a plant like marijuana, okay? So you have this fake pot causing zombie-like effects and 85 times more potent than marijuana. Okay? So you have a lot of kids who are smoking this stuff not realizing what's going on. And the reason why they like it is because it doesn't come up in a drug test. Okay? That's why it's very popular. And guess what else? You can find this crap in the convenience stores, and they're not checking for these kids' ages. They're in gas stations, drug paraphernalia shops, novelty stores, and even online. And they cost about $10 a pack. So if you think about these certain types of fake drugs that are mimicking what people say is the real deal, got a lot of kids who don't know it. And some of them are dying behind it. And as you can see up here in New Haven, Connecticut, you had 114 people who had life-threatening problems. So these are just a few of the chemical stories that I'm sharing with you all this week. But be aware, be on the lookout. And they was giving stickers out to kids. And kids licking these stickers and becoming sick. We have to be very mindful of what children are doing. Okay? Back in the day, kids used to sniff, what was those, like smelly markers? Because they were scented with like grape flavors, lime, orange, strawberries, cherries. And then kids were also sniffing glue. I'm like, what the heck are kids doing with their time that are made for industrial purposes? Go sniff a book. How about that? Go sniff a book. Okay? So let me know your thoughts on these stories. Do you think that our kids are not being monitored and that's why they're getting into trouble? You know, they have a lot of time on their hands. I'm glad school is starting back because maybe their minds can, get back on the right track. Until next time, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the More Than Just Science show. Continue to tune in every week. Remember, you can connect with me by going onto our Instagram page, Twitter page, Facebook, Spreaker, YouTube. Email me. Okay? There are many ways you can get in touch with me. Have a great day, everyone, and most of all, educate your mind, body, and soul with words and thoughts that will empower you. The library is free. You don't have to have money to go to the library. Malcolm X once said, education is your passport to your future. So young people, elders, teachers, get up, get out, and get some knowledge. Parents, you too. Just because the summer is leaving us doesn't mean that your mind should have been on vacation that entire time. But now that school is starting, for some, it's already been in effect for many, and it's going to be starting soon for most. You need to learn something new every single day. Be allergic to negativity, and be allergic to being average. And let me give you all some positive vibrations by telling you that you can do whatever you put your mind to. Remember, you got to train your mind with positive thoughts. You've got to reprogram your thoughts. You've got to think that you can and that you will and that you must accomplish greater things than what your peer group is doing. This this message is not just for the kids, it's for the parents too. Because a lot of parents are dealing with stinking thinking. And when they're thinking negative thoughts, they're passing those thoughts on to their children. And you wonder why these kids are off the chain. Follow them home. Until next time, have a wonderful week. Love y'all to life. Peace.